Welcome to the Ergo2go podcast, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs. We bring you interesting people from the world of ergonomics, on-site injury prevention, risk management, health, safety, well-being, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe below and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest on the overlapping fields of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, and healthcare, right here on the Ergo2go podcast. Today's guest is a nationally recognized expert in the field of occupational health and safety and ergonomics. He's instructed over 1,000 workshops and seminars on ergonomics awareness and musculoskeletal disorder prevention to a broad array of healthcare and industrial health and safety professionals. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the Ergo2go podcast here on segment 2, the director of the Back School for over 25 years, Ron Porter. Ron, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Matt. I'm great. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Oh, well, it's good that I didn't scare you off on that first segment there. It's always a good sign.
I don't scare easily. I'm a physical therapist.
Yeah. We see things we wish we could never talk about.
That's true. I've got I've got a niece that I'm very close to. She's a school teacher, and I think that's one of the bumper stickers that they stick to us is, I don't scare easily, I'm a teacher. Well, in physical therapy, we've seen a lot of things, especially in ergonomics.
Yeah.
I mean, as a physical therapist, when I worked in the clinic, I really didn't have a good understanding of the demands of the jobs that a lot of the patients I was dealing with were explaining to me.
Yeah.
And then when we get the opportunity to go out into the environment where they're working, is just like amazing that a human body is able to withstand some of the physical stresses and strains that we see in a lot of these jobs, including our own.
Precisely. It's so good that you're addressing that. In fact, I'd like to follow that thread a little bit more, because that makes one, I'm convinced, that makes one a better clinician. It's one thing to live in the little clinical world that's kind of artificial. The goals can be artificial. A lot of it can just be, we're going for our set of goals instead of that person's set of goals. When you go out into their environment, does it or does it not make you a better clinician, a broader clinician?
Oh, and after going into the work environment where the patients that I was treating were, experiencing these ergonomic stresses, I can't imagine being a clinician and not having the opportunity to do that. It would, for lack of a better word, I would feel like I was dealing with malpractice there, because what you're really doing when you go into the company is you're looking at the root cause of what you're treating. And you and I have discussed over the years the fact that if you don't address that issue, no matter how good a clinician you are, when you send them back into that stressed environment, you're certainly placing them at a huge risk. I have really been very thankful that as I moved toward ergonomics, it gave me the opportunity to see some of these workplaces.
You make a good point. And again, to follow this thread a little bit further, one of the things that dawned on me after years of on-site at the paper plant in Florida was, you start pulling into that parking lot of that big 1,300 employee mill, and you begin to use the same perspective. You see the plant as the patient, and you start to see the injuries as the symptom. It's just, it's scalable, this whole perspective. Would you agree? Would you think that's useful?
I definitely do. I think, the skill sets that we use involve inspection, whether it's inspecting the human body for dysfunction or movement issues, muscle weakness, what have you. We're doing the same thing in a workplace. We're doing an inspection. We're looking for, again, deficiencies, poor design, or lack of application, people not using things correctly. You know, the tools that are available, the first tool that's always available is the human body. And a
Right.
lot of what we do as ergonomists and physical therapists is instruct people on the correct ways to use their body so that they'll uh, be able to use them for a longer period of time. You know, our
Right.
goal is generally to slow down the aging process of the body, the physical, you know, stresses and strains that wear it down.
Precisely. We always use the example of the NFL, not for long. The career is usually 3 to 4 years. Well, the people,
Mm.
the industrial athletes we deal with, it's measured in decades, 30 to 40 years. So preserving that over the course of that time, that's kind of the challenge.
Definitely is. You know, I think one of the things that I learned watching you as an instructor was the question that you pre, present to individuals: how many years do you plan to do this job?
Right.
And if you plan to do it for an extended period of time, more than the 3 or 4 years in the like the NFL players that you address there, then if you don't apply ergonomic principles, the correct tool use, the correct use of the body, and keeping the body in good physical condition, then you know, your chances of surviving, especially in some of the industries that you and I both have encountered,
Right.
uh, are are minimal.
Yeah, yeah, and such a diverse background. You've worked with hundreds of companies and thousands of employees in fields as diverse as from, I mean, aeronautics to food distribution, chemical companies, oil and gas, paper manufacturers, public utilities, construction companies, armed forces. Are there any common themes among them all that you might be able to point to? I mean, obviously, when you get in there, you got to drill down to their specific approach or their specific challenges. But are there any common themes you can kind of address amongst them all?
Well, in ergonomics, the risk factors are the same regardless of the job that you're in. Awkward posture, you know, repetition, which produces fatigue, you
Hmm.
know, grip forces, lifting, pinch, pull, those types of things that we address. And yeah, in the yeah, in every industry, whether it is the ones that you mentioned there are manual, but as you and I well know, we're also dealing a lot today with people that are less manually active, the data entry individual, the call center, the executive. I did recently did a series of assessments for attorneys, and so is the risk factors are the same. The human body is the same,
Right.
regardless of whether I work in a paper mill, which is a very physically demanding job,
Hmm.
or I'm working as a call center um, employee, which is you know, socially a very difficult job. I mean, the demands of each worker, whether they're physical demands or mental demands, are still going to be pretty much the same, regardless of the industries.
That's true. And I think that's one of the things where we dovetail very nicely with other fields that have a common mission, because I know we interact with these other fields, and I like to say amongst them and others that we're the ones most comfortable with the organism being the human being,
Mm,
and all that implies, not just the physical but also the biopsychosocial, the things that we encounter, as you know. And when we make our bones, as I like to say it, in the clinical world, we realize how much you mentioned on the earlier segment about the behavioral components, that there is something to do with mentoring and coaching here as well. It's you can engineer the best environment, but there's still this organism that's got to fit within that environment.
hmm
Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
we're all of us are human beings,
Right.
ultimately, and the issues that we address as in the clinic is, as a physical therapist, is we had to be able to motivate all different types of individuals. All age ranges, all size, shapes, different backgrounds. And so that skill set that I learned clinically has been very valuable to me in the prevention area, in the ergonomic area, because we deal with all sizes, shapes, and ages of individuals, and we have to be able to provide them with the best fit, but we also have to be able to motivate them to want to take care of themselves, to accept the responsibility of using the tools correctly, and believing what we're telling them is something that is going to increase the longevity of their career, and their ability to provide for themselves and their families.
Precisely. In the moment or two we have remaining in this segment, I couldn't help but notice when I did a little bit of my work backstory for this particular interview that you've been chosen as the 2012 ASSE, it's now the ASSP, Ergonomics Practice Specialty Safety Professional of the Year. You've been recognized as one of the 50 most influential people in the workers' compensation by the 2014 SEAK Nationals, that's SEAK, National Workers' Comp and Occupational Medicine Conference. You've received the 2016 President's Award presented by the ASSE, now the ASSP. Why is it important for our listeners, for us, for our coworkers, for everyone, to cross-pollinate, to be able to be broad in their scope and address a field as broad as ergonomics? Can you address that?
Yeah, certainly. I was fortunate. Early in my career, I was visiting one of the plants where we were providing back injury prevention or back school services before we even called it ergonomics. And the safety director in this plant said, what you're really doing is part of my job. He said, I'm required to look at the ergonomics issues, and I really don't understand it very well. But he said, you might also consider joining a group that I'm a member of. And he said it was the American Society of Safety Engineers. I said, well, I'm not an engineer. My older brother is. Maybe he can join. And he said, well, you don't need to be an engineer to join. He said it's a group of like-minded individuals that focus on employee welfare, which is essentially what you're doing for us, for our company. And so I joined the group. I've learned a lot from them.
Yes.
Been very fortunate. I've been a member more than 25 years. I was looking up on the wall over here. I used to have my plaque. They gave me a 25-year membership plaque, but I can't remember how many years ago that was. So I've been a member, I know, for 30 years or more. And as a healthcare provider, it really opened my eyes to a lot of other areas of responsibilities, helped me broaden my skill set.
Yep.
As I help them broaden their skill set. And as you know, we deal not just with safety people, but we deal with a lot of different backgrounds, and I learn from all of them. Hopefully they learn from me.
Right.
Our goal at the back school is primarily education, and our ability to touch as many people as possible.
That's great. I agree. You and I bumped into each other at the 2012 national conference in Denver of the ASSE. We were both speaking there, and I was entirely sincere when I told the audience that if safety professionals ran our healthcare system, we wouldn't have a healthcare crisis, because it's through them I learned the vernacular of leading indicators and lagging indicators, and that's their language. And I realized they're always striving for those leading indicators. Let's find the root cause. Let's nip it in the bud. And I thought, good gosh, where have you people been all my life? This is exactly who I've been looking for. Isn't that true? I mean,
Oh, that's definitely true. As we discussed earlier, our medical system has always been built on lagging indicators. We'll wait
right.
till something's broken, and then we'll try to fix it.
Yep.
In safety, fortunately, it is aimed at that aspect of not ever breaking anything.
Yes.
And that's certainly the goal that we have with ergonomics.
Precisely. Ron, this is great. I love this stuff. We can go on for hours. Let's wrap this as segment 2. And if you can hang out, we'll hit segment 3 and finish up. You got a few more minutes?
I think I've got the endurance for maybe one more, Matt. Thank you.
You can put up with me for that long. Thank you.
Oh, I can put up with as you well know, I can talk all day long. So how much time you've got, I'll be delighted to be with you.
All right, sit tight and we'll finish up with segment 3. Folks, you've been listening to and watching the Ergo2go podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. We bring you interesting people from the world of ergonomics, like Ron Porter, on-site injury prevention, health, safety, well-being, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe below and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest info from the overlapping worlds of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, and healthcare, right here on the Ergo2go podcast. Until next time, let's be safe, let's be smart, let's be helpful. Let's get to work. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.